Hey guys, welcome back. It's Michael here, and I was just going to talk a little bit about my experience I had. Not yesterday, the day before. 2 days ago, I did a wedding. It was a very small wedding, intimate. I think there was around 20 to 30 people, something like that. Bridal party, just bride and groom. Two men and two ladies, or a lady and a girl, couple of children, that sort of thing. Anyway, very small little wedding and very intimate, nice location in the Blue Mountains in Sydney, which is about a 1.5 hour drive from the city centre out. There's some mountains, they're called the Blue Mountains. It's a range of mountains. And at a very nice location, this very old hotel which sits along a cliff face looking into a part of the Blue Mountains called the Hydro Majestic. And I was fortunate enough to do this wedding. Now, I booked this wedding about 6 months ago, and unfortunately in that time period I've fractured my elbow, so it's like week 6 on this Saturday in a couple of days, so still healing the fracture and still don't have full range of movement and everything with my arm. And so I've had a lot of medical appointments, that sort of thing to deal with. And anyway, to cut it short, I had an appointment in the morning of this wedding. Now, this wedding was going to start at 11 a.m. start ceremony. So I really wanted to be there like at least an hour before, at say 10 o'clock. That was my plan, to start to, get the sort of, she was going to be in a room in the hotel, I was going to get some photos of her preparing with her mother, and then move outside and all that sort of stuff. I was also going to do a little bit of video on the side, just to sort of, as a value added extra for the customer. So that was the plan for the day. I wasn't charging a lot for this wedding. This is somebody who's sort of known to my wife, and I gave them a really good deal, and certainly didn't include video, which I did for nothing. I'm not a videographer, and I just wanted to record this event for her, just like I said, as a value added sort of extra for her, just being a nice guy, that sort of thing. So anyway, with this appointment in the morning, the same morning I had an appointment at that appointment was at 8 o'clock in the morning, okay, and it was going to go for at least an hour till 9 o'clock, okay, so I wouldn't have got out of that appointment till 9 o'clock, and I had an hour and a half drive at least to get up to the mountains. Now, that meant I would have been there at 10:30, all going well. Now, in a 1.5 hour drive out of Sydney in peak hour time, a lot can go wrong. You can, hit the highway, there could be an accident, there could just be traffic, anything can happen, there could be roadworks, all these things, and suddenly you're adding 20, 30 minutes onto your trip easily. And I was sort of freaking out in my head. I had to make this appointment at 8 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at this wedding. Anyway, I got online, and I left it a bit late actually, and I was looking for online services, and there's a few that sort of look up photographers for you. All of them were a bit expensive compared to what I was charging. I was actually going to be paying more than half of what I was charging for this wedding to get somebody up there to start the photography. Anyway, I ended up talking to this guy, really nice guy, and told him my situation, and he agreed to help me. We came to a figure which was half of what I was charging, and I know that's a lot, but to put my mind at ease, and to I would have a second shooter there, which is a bonus and all that, so I just said I'm going to pay this and be done with it. Now, I arranged for this guy to go up there. I didn't even know what sort of gear he was going to use. he got up there at 10 o'clock like he said he would. He started the preliminary photos in the room, etc. And then I headed up and I arrived and set up my video cameras for the ceremony like I told you I was going to record it. And then I went up to the room. I was up there at about 10 to 11. I could hear him working in the room. I didn't want to interrupt the flow and everything and sort of barge in and start shooting as well. Two people in, small hotel room. Not really great. So I just left him in there. I stood outside. I was listening. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. He's doing his thing. Sounded all under control. He was professional and well-mannered and good communicator. He was very good. Took nice photos, etc. Anyway, so they came out of the room at just after 11, and then we started to walk down. It's quite a long walk to where the ceremony was taking place. And anyway, I just want to talk to you about the different cameras in use. So what I took with me for this wedding shoot was a Canon EOS RP. Okay, now I was umming and ahhing. Usually for a wedding, I'd like to take my XH1. It's proven to be sort of a reliable workhorse, and I really like it. I like the grip. I like the results. It's good to use. I'm very happy with it. But at the same time, I also know that my Canon gear is particularly good, especially now that the RP has the firmware upgrade, the latest firmware to 1.4. Absolutely fantastic eye focus there, and of course the 24p. Well, actually the eye focus came through with the 1.3 version, and the 1.4 just makes it even better with the video and all that. So anyway, not going into that story at the moment, but just to say, I took the EOS RP. I took the cheap 24 to 105 lens. Okay, I don't know if you know it, the 3.5 to 5.6 variable aperture image stabilized lens from Canon, 24 to 105. It is a cracker lens, like seriously. I think I might have mentioned it before, but I'll mention it again. It's one of the best sort of that sort of mid zoom range from 24 to 105. So much better than just using a 24 to 70. Why? Because that little bit of extra reach at the end means that you're not changing lenses all the time. I covered this whole wedding with that lens, and although it is nice to get those long shots with the 70 to 200, which my colleague actually got a few with that lens, which I'm really gratefully did, because yeah, that does really compress things, which is just a nice good look. And of course everybody likes that. I like it anyway. And but anyway, needless to say, I'm very happy with the results that I was getting from my camera and my lens. For the flash, I was using the 430 artificial intelligence one, the new one that moves automatically, although I didn't actually implement the automatic move. I was too go, so I was just setting it myself. I did use, it comes with a really nice diffuser dome that I put on top, which sort of splays light out everywhere, which is really good. It's almost like having a Gary Fong sort of situation on top of your flash. And the 430, it's not as heavy or as big as the 600, but the results really good. The recycling time was surprisingly fast. When I was using the flash, I think I was shooting around the 1600 ISO, somewhere around that. Not high, but not low. And the recycling time for the flash, not a problem. Like I was shooting shots off and I wasn't even thinking about the recycling time actually, and it was just firing every single time. There was no delays. There was no, dark shot because it hadn't recycled. Never once. So good combination. I would recommend that. And yeah, with that lens, I find all I have to do is open the aperture to 3.5, you know, at the 24mm end, and then leave the variable aperture to go up and down. And that, for just about every shot, is ideal. Of course, if you've got groups, you need to get that depth a bit deeper. Don't fall into the trap of trying to shoot wide open with a group. You will get blurry people. I think we've all been there if you're a wedding photographer. And yeah, so, but you know, that lens, because it's not such a shallow aperture, I find that there isn't really a need for those super shallow depth of field like a modeling sort of shot scenario at a wedding. Okay, most important thing at a wedding is that the picture is in focus. All right, and when you're pushing, you know, big glass with wide apertures, you can get into trouble. And you may not even realize it. You may be shooting away thinking everything's great, thinking you're getting stuff in focus, and then you get it on the screen at home and it's like, oh dear. You know, especially when you got two people in the shot, it might grab focus on one person, but the other person just a little bit behind or in front, and they're out of focus. And that can be a big problem. But I find the variable aperture lens, which actually steps up a little bit, or closes down a little bit, I mean, as you zoom out, really good compromise. And it's so cheap and it's so sharp. It's honestly, you would not know the difference between it and the f4, the L lens, unless you're in a thunderstorm and getting wet, because it's not weather sealed. But apart from that, highly recommend it. I was just going to show you some of the shots. Okay, that's one camera. I also had my bum bag, and I took in the bum bag, had the Fujifilm XE3. I just bought the XE3 a few days ago, and put the 56 1.2 APD lens on that, because this is how I usually roll at a wedding anyway. I usually throw that on the XE2S and to take shots, but now there was a sale, you know, the Black Friday sales coming up, blah blah blah, and got the XE3 really cheap. I will talk about the XE3 later. And you know, it's got the same sensor as the XT2 and the XT20. Very nice. Even the XH1, very good sensor, beautiful Fuji colors, etc. You know the deal. Focusing is a little bit iffy, not totally reliable, certainly not in the Canon RP league, but still very good. Of course, you know, when I'm shooting wide open with the 56 1.2, you are asking a lot of an autofocus system. That's going to be a shallow depth of field. So anyway, let's have a look. So what I've got here, I've got the shots that I took with EOS RP. I've got some shots that I took with the Fujifilm initially, and then I've got some shots with that my photographer took. He was using the EOS R. Anyway, we'll mostly look at my ones, and let's get into the computer and have a look here. Okay, so what we've got here is the beautiful bride and groom. I've taken these shots with the XE3. Okay, data on the left of the screen here. And let's go through. So XE3, okay, these are edited. This is how I will present these photos to the customer. Most of these taken with the XE3 have been cropped in a little bit, so you can see how nice and sharp, everything you would expect from the Fujifilm XE3. It was a really harsh day, harsh direct sunlight onto the bride and groom. As you can see, that's like worst case scenario, I believe. I hate that scenario because you're gonna get shadows, like strong shadows, and of course digital cameras don't do well with shadows. So you know, you're pulling out shadows and reducing highlights, which I don't like to do. A cloudy, overcast day, any day for me, please. So yeah, so beautiful shots of the bride and groom. Just takes a moment to load there. Okay, now we can see the XE3. I only did a few shots because I was just a bit too lazy to get it out of the bum bag around my waist. But I'm glad I got a few shots in there. The beautiful bridal party. Okay, the best men and the little boy. It's all good. Okay, I managed to get a shot of the bride there. Another one. You can see those harsh shadows. It's really hard to do anything about that. You're best off, if you can, to move to somewhere shady. Unfortunately, this place was just all open, no trees, and yeah, worst case scenario. There they are, the beautiful bride and groom. Okay, converted one to black and white. So then we start with the EOS RP. Now here's the groom. This is when I arrived. He's up on the top here. And yeah, so I was just grabbing some shots. The groom and his mother. Black and white again. So just really nice shots. Bit of horseplay with a couple of the guys. And there we go. So you can see that, like this sort of shot, this is wide open. You can see the settings over here. What I've done is I'm using Aperture Priority. The ISO is at 100, so it's clean as it can get, and 35mm, it's at f4 with this lens, and you can see that that's a good sort of spot to be in. I've got everybody in focus. Their faces are all in focus, but the background drops away a little bit. Okay, it's not completely blown out, but why do you need to blow out the background completely? Why do you want to isolate your subjects from their environment that much when you're at a wedding? Like, I don't want to do that. I do want to show the environment. Here you can see the beautiful blue mountains in the background, which is a wonderful thing. They've paid a lot to be at this location, and why not get that into the photo is what I believe. So don't get carried away, you know, getting out the 35 1.4 and shooting at 1.4, and then, you know, you got this lady here with, you know, she's not in focus, and this guy's sharp, and it can lead you into all sorts of trouble. So a word of experience there. Okay, I believe that this is a much better scenario to hand over a photo like this to the customer, and they're going to be happy because they got all their family in sharp focus, and it looks good, and they can tell where they are, which is what they wanted at the time. That's what they're paying for, to be there. Okay, so let's push on. Bit more horseplay. Okay, so in this shot here we can see that she's coming down the stairs, and I've got the flash, I'm pretty sure, facing towards her with the dome on it, and we're shooting at 400 ISO, and you can see that works out pretty well. Again, same sort of thing, 400. You can see as it's getting into a darker part of the building, we're going up 640. Now we're down right into the building with no windows, and we're at 1600 ISO, and you can see we're getting nice, lovely, clear shots with the EOS RP. Focus is really good. Let's check. Yep, all sharp, all good. Little girl. So this is the sort of scenario that you're going to have. Even here you can see I'm at f5 and I've missed her in focus, so it would have been nice to have used a wider aperture and have her in focus, the bride, rather than just the bridesmaid. Yeah, you can see how sharp that lens is. Absolutely beautiful. Everything's good. Here's a wider shot using the flash inside. I would stress the importance of using a flash rather than trying to go natural light photography at a wedding. Don't. I know there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, I'm a natural light photographer, blah, blah, blah. And yes, you can take photos, with the high ISO, like your Sony A7 IIIs, and Nikon cameras pretty good at, recovering in the high ISOs, but Canon definitely is not. You do not want to go into the high ISOs, like probably above 6400, I would say, is the limit for Canon, because it's going to look like a turd muffin, and you don't want to be just smoothing everything out. Well, I don't want to be anyway. So I believe with most camera systems, I try and, if I'm inside, use a flash if you can. I think it's imperative. Like, really, don't fall for that load of crap of natural light. If you've got enough natural light and you can do it at a lower ISO, sure, good on you, go for it. But if you're inside and you're pushing ISOs, 5,000, 6,000, 1,200, don't do that. You're going to suffer later. You're going to be doing heaps posts, trying to get rid of all that crud, and it's not the best image that you can get out of your camera. It's just not. You're wasting your equipment. Get a flash. Flashes are so cheap. Couple of $100, you've got a good flash. You can get a Godox or a Yongnuo even. You don't have to get your brand. You just get a flash and saturate that sensor with light. Can't stress the importance of how important it is to saturate the sensor with light. That's what's going to make your photo beautiful, pop, crystal clear, and lovely. Even using a higher ISO like 1600 with the flash, just because you've got the flash on doesn't mean you have to drop the ISO down to 100. No, put the ISO up a bit, but not too high. Know your limits, all right? Know your limits. Try and limit it at about 1600 with a flash, I would say. And just because you're using the flash, you're going to get really nice, clear shots. Anyway, let's continue. All right. So yeah, this is the sort of thing I'm doing here. I've got an ISO of 1000 using the flash, all right, and you can see how clear it is, all right. We're zooming in here and you can see all the hairs. It's all nice and sharp and crisp. That's what I would say is ideal, okay? Ideal scenario, okay? And really, if you're not doing that, if you were doing this with no flash, you'd probably have to raise, you'd be pulling it out later, or you'd be having a higher ISO, and then you'll be really blowing out those windows in the back, and you're gonna, you're gonna lose something in order to take this photo with no flash, okay? And it's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be worth it, okay? Let's move on. Black and white. Okay, here's lovely girls coming up this corridor, and you can see we're at 800. Couple of the kids here looking nice and cheeky, the way kids should be, and we're at 1600 ISO, nice and clear, beautiful. Okay, now we've moved outside, the flash is off naturally, and we've got the father of the bride here waiting in this corridor. He's waiting in anticipation of his daughter coming down. He's ready to give her away, and we're at 100 ISO. I've opened this lens f5 at 64 millimeters, okay, and you might be saying, oh, f5, that's not going to give you a very shallow depth of field. But look at that. When I'm at, I'm getting his chest and full head in the shot, and the background is completely blurred, but we can still make out that she's coming down there, and that's ideal. Don't get carried away with those super super fast lenses, okay? Alright. Here she is getting closer, and you can see that even as she gets closer, she's still nicely blurred, and he's looking down at her. And this is great sort of storytelling, documenting what's happening on the day. Okay. You can see outside the RP is doing a champ of a job. It's getting things in focus. Here comes the bride with the father. Okay, so I think I'm not going to go through every shot. I just wanted to summarize what I was using at a wedding and what worked well, I believe. We can see here, this is at 105 5.6. It's enough, you know, I'm not getting too close and interfering with the bridal party here, okay? I've stood off enough to, you know, give them a nice bit of space. And, you know, I can see that she is sharp here. And we've got nice fall off in both directions for the rest of the image to isolate her and the groom, actually. And it's good. You can see it's easy to work with. You don't have to fall into that trap of saying I've got to be shooting at 2.8, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it is nice in certain situations, yes, to have those super wide apertures. But it's a little bit specialized. And when you're shooting a wedding or an event and you're going here, going there, this sort of lens could save your ass, okay? Because it's going to give you enough depth of field to have a little bit of leeway. And you want to have a little bit of leeway when you're running around taking shots. You don't want to just have, all right, that super shallow depth of field that you got to really concentrate, because otherwise you might get a couple of killer shots, but you know, you're going to miss something in order to do it. You know, you won't have the time to jump around. You know, I'm going here, I'm running around the other side, I've got to go all around the chairs. You just got to go with what works for you, okay? So anyway, that's a quick little summary. I would recommend the RP for professional event use, 100%. It's lightweight, focuses well, has great image quality, particularly for people shots. It's Canon colors, lovely, easy to edit. You're not going to be adjusting your colors at all, or I'm not, because the colors are looking great. You might just be adding a touch of contrast, a bit of black, but nothing big. You know, you're not throwing in big changes. It's great out of camera. It looks good. You know, I'm super happy with the RP. Good for weddings. Catch you later. Bye.